I was raised in a denominational context where I didn't have much exposure to other Christian traditions. In fact, I wasn't really aware of them at all. I just sort of figured every Christian is a Baptist, or should be, and I thought that all sorts of Christianity was basically comparable. And it really wasn't until I got to graduate school that I encountered Christians from other traditions and from elsewhere in the world. And I came to recognize that the Christian faith is this really broad and deep and ancient tradition that's really diverse. And so I felt almost a sense of rootlessness, like I wanted to find a way to connect with my history. You know, like when folks take those DNA tests to tell their genetic ancestry. It was a bit like that. I don't think I knew where I came from. So after undertaking some study into the church's history, I was able to sort of connect the dots a little bit and discern what my bloodlines are. And it was really rewarding and enriching, and I come away with a better sense of who I am.
I've always loved the stories of church history since I was a child. The stories of heroes of the faith gave me something to aspire to. They made me feel like I was part of a long line of believers and that somehow we were all one big family. As I got older then, I realized how helpful it can be to have a wide perspective on the story of the church. The challenges the church faces today are serious, but they're not unprecedented. The faith has survived already through incredible adversity, from persecution to heresy, corruption, and division. And so looking back across so much time, it's easy to see that the continued life of the church is truly something supernatural.
So I work now as a professor of theology, where my specialty is historical theology. So I'm very interested in the history of the development of doctrine across the church's many eras. Even though I specialize in the modern era, I've got an interest in the whole swath of church history. So I studied for many years historical theology, Reformation studies, where I was particularly interested in the Lutheran Reformation. And then more recently, I've done work on the modern German church and the church struggle under Nazism. And I've always been interested in the ways that Christians have negotiated all the cultural pressures that they feel in any given moment. I also work as a pastor in the local church, where I found it so valuable to be able to connect our experience as a worshiping community to the experience of the brothers and sisters who have gone before us in the faith.
Well, I've had the privilege to teach church history to both high school students and adults for years, both in a school and in a church setting, and I love introducing people to the long story of Christianity. I find that students are comforted in seeing that the questions they have, the tensions they feel, are things that Christians have asked and felt for ages. There's so much wisdom and comfort to be gathered in that. I also love giving students heroes, saints, to admire in a time where so many of our public figures can be pretty disappointing. We can still find examples of holiness and courage in history, and I think that's really beautiful.
There's a great Charles Schulz Peanuts cartoon, I wonder if you've seen it, where Charlie is sitting down, Charlie Brown, to write an essay on church history, and the prompt says, church history, and that's all it says, and he has to write an essay about it, and he sits down and he says, well, my pastor was born in 1955. It's a funny cartoon because it suggests that Charlie doesn't really have any awareness of where the Christian faith comes from, and he thinks that his experience of the Christian faith is all there is to the Christian faith. And while it might be a little bit oversimplistic to suggest that this is true of most American Christians, I think it is true of a lot of us. We just think that our experience of the church is all there is to it. And what's at stake in studying the church's history is to recognize that the church is older than us, it's bigger than us, it's broader than us, and there are lots of questions that Christians throughout the ages have already thought about, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you want to have a better sense of where you fit in the story, this course will be for you.
Well, I think the danger of ignoring church history is that if we don't know the story of the church, we don't really know ourselves. We don't know where the church has been, and we don't know where the church is going. We don't know the temptations to watch out for, or the hard-won wisdom that the church has already gained. I think we miss out on the testimony of millions of Christians of history who have sought to be faithful to Jesus of Nazareth in their particular contexts. I think by studying church history, we see their faith and we can continue it and bring it into the present. The Church History in Plain Language course is really for anyone interested in the amazing story of how Christianity grew from a small band of Jews in the first century to the dominant world religion it is today. This course is for anyone who wants to learn how it all came to be, the global presence, the distinctive theology, and the rich traditions. Anyone who has come into contact with Christianity, even from outside the faith, might recognize pieces of their own story in this course. It's a topic that I think will always be relevant because of the incredible impact Christianity has had and continues to have on the world.
In his book, Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis uses this brilliant little phrase, chronological snobbery. And what he means by that is a chronological snob is someone who thinks that people who lived before the Enlightenment don't have anything meaningful to teach us. I mean, what could we learn from ancient people? I mean, they think the earth is flat, for example. But Lewis goes on to argue, and I think he's right about this, that pretty much any problem that contemporary Christians have to think about theologically, they will find resources for it in the history of the Christian church. The problem is, though, that we just don't know about it, right? And so often, when we come to think about really difficult cultural issues, political issues, we may not know that the brothers and sisters who have gone before us actually have a lot to teach us here. And I think if we can mine the church's history for that kind of wisdom, we'll find that they have a lot more to say about living in the modern world than we might have guessed. Facebook is a really bad place to discuss anything that matters, and it's an especially bad place to discuss religion. I don't know if you've ever witnessed some of these Facebook conversations where people are posting all kinds of stuff that is totally ignorant or not connected to reality at all. And one time I saw a meme circulating on Facebook that claimed that the Roman Catholic Church was founded in the year 325 by Constantine and Satan, whereas this local Bible church was founded in the year 33 by Jesus himself. Now, obviously, that's not true, and it doesn't make any sense. But nevertheless, lots of Christians don't really know what they're talking about when they talk about where the faith came from. So, by the end of this course, our hope is that you'll be able to speak cogently, articulately, and faithfully about the history of the Christian tradition with a spirit of charity towards other denominations and traditions that are not your own.
In this course, we will walk through the centuries, starting with the early church and continuing right through today, focusing on the stories of key characters and the challenges they faced. We'll tell their dramatic stories and then examine the cultural and historical context surrounding them. We'll examine the many theological debates that shaped the direction of the Christian church, and we will witness how the church responded to revolutions in politics, in philosophy, in technology. It's a long story, but through it all, we will trace the theme of faith in Jesus Christ being practiced in an ever-changing world.
I encourage you to sign up for this course and begin the process of finding where you fit in the Christian story.